Why don't you greet everybody off the Pennsylvanisch Deutsch dialect?
Go ahead, Bill. Du kannst gut Deutsch schwätzen.
Am I on? Oh, I am on.
Yo.
Well, Gute Morgen, Salapa, which means good morning to everyone. Great to be here. What a wonderful day for you to be at the festival. And Doug and I are going to try and fill in a couple voids here. Ik ben een vendugroyer. I'm an auctioneer. And we were selling strawberries, and it reminded me of a story. There's kalbo dat ik die stad omgeef.
This old guy was going to the store.
Und hinnendra had een halve mishkat.
And behind him was a load of manure.
Und dat on Skrijtsweg was een Karl op een schokelstoel omhokken.
And when he got to the one crossroads, there was an old guy sitting on a rocking chair on his front porch.
Und als rauskomen, dan had ik gezegd, nou stop, gerade dat.
Now this old guy said, now whoa, now stop.
Dan had ik gezegd, some Baba, sag mir mal etwas, was bist du am do?
And he said to the old farmer, he said, now tell me, what are you doing?
I had de Baba gezegd, ik ben mist omvorderen voor mijn aardbeien.
He says, well, I'm driving my manure here to put on my strawberry plant.
Ja, wel, de Karl had zijn kop geschitteld, dan had ik gezegd, etwas is let's met dir, ik doe suiker op mijns.
And the old guy shook his head. He goes, there's something wrong with you. I put sugar on mine. The Pennsylvania Dutch, for those of you that don't know this, I've heard it referred to as an earthy humor. I don't know what that means, but I think that joke kind of fits to it, doesn't it?
I believe it. Yep,
earthy.
Yep.
We like jokes with manure.
Yep.
Not that we're full of it or anything like that.
No.
So, friends, one of the best ways to learn any language is to learn it through music. When you were children, they had you sing songs that helped to teach you the English language and maybe some other language. And so we, myself and Doug, a couple years back, decided to do some bilingual songs and make some up so that we could share them with people and give you a sense of what it sounds like in English and what it sounds like in the Pennsylvania Dutch, because really there's not a whole lot of that going on. So we're glad to present that here at the festival. So this is the first one that we're going to present to you that we wrote. Now I'm going to have the guys discuss it though in Dutch and English if you don't mind. This song is called Chicken Pot Pie. Now chicken pot pie, the way Pennsylvania Dutch make it, is not at all like those chicken pot pies you get on those frozen trays that those actually look like a pie. But for some reason, the Pennsylvania Dutch and the chicken pot pie I was raised on from my grandmom Kline, that's just dough and chicken broth and chicken and veggies and stuff like that in the pot. There's no pie involved with it at all. You guys want to maybe explain that further?
Well, I know when you get across the Susquehanna and York County and over that way, they say slippy noodles. They like their pot pie with slippy noodles. I don't let mine slip around too long. I slip them down pretty quick. I was out there. All right, we got to ask this question so we know what our crowd is. Raise your hand if you're Pennsylvania Dutch. Look at that, Bill.
There you go.
Raise your hand if you're not Pennsylvania Dutch. Okay, that's all right. We're working on that till the end of this show. Raise your hand if you want to be Pennsylvania Dutch. That's it. Talk to us afterwards. We'll get you the card.
Well, all you have to do is eat some chicken pot pie while you're here.
Yep.
Do a little bit of contra dancing or hoedowning. Maybe sing a song.
We're gonna
have. What else do they need?
We'll teach them a couple words today that they can take with them.
Right.
In
Learn
the
some language. Eat some scrapple. Have a sausage.
So one word you're going to hear in this song a lot is the word for chicken.
What is the word for chicken? Well, tell them. I know.
Hinkle.
So you're going to hear the word hinkle, and you're going to hear the word pot boy, which is pot pie in Pennsylvania Dutch. So if you learn nothing else today, you can take that home with you. Hinkle, pot boy.
So this is a song Doug and I wrote. We submitted it for a Grammy, but we never heard back from them. Chicken pot pie, everybody loves that chicken pot pie. Eggs in the flour, roll out the dough, cut them into squares, don't you know? Now he'll sing it in Dutch.
A hinkelbutt boy, alle believe a hinkelbutt boy. Oh, ja in de mail, manchmal im Day, in 4 Eck schneiden, das ist der Weg.
Chicken pot pie, everybody loves that chicken pot pie. Boil the chicken good and pick off the meat. Put it it in the pot. It's such a treat.
A Hinkelbutt boy, alle ever lieber Hinkelbutt boy. Koch es Hinkelgut, pick mal es Fleisch, du es in die Hafer, so enfrei.
I'm getting hungry though.
You know, some people eat this with squirrel?
I know. Oh, I'll tell that story.
Okay.
Chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie. Everybody loves that chicken pot pie. Meat with the dough squares in the boiling pot. Throw in some taters with the chicken stock.
A Hinkelbutt boy, alle ever lieber Hinkelbutt boy. In die Kist, ich und du, Fleisch mit den Nudeln probieren dazu.
Chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie. Everybody loves that chicken pot pie. A little bit of silver, pinch of salt and pepper too. Gonna be good eating for me and you.
A Hinkelbutt boy, alle ever lieber Hinkelbutt boy. Leben celery, pepper and salt, rear a small room and esse this out.
Chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie. Everybody loves that chicken pot pie. Boil her up high, then let her simmer down. Serve it in a soup bowl, everybody gather round.
A Hinkelbutt boy, alle ever lieber Hinkelbutt boy. Lass es mal kochen, eine Stunde oder zwei. Alle ever kommen, da kochen wir mehr.
Okay, I'm gonna tell the rest of this story now. Just vamp on a D there for me, buddy. So my Pennsylvania Dutch grandfather had an old double-barrel hammerlock shotgun. He'd go out hunting in the woods with his old hound dog. Whatever he'd come home with, that's what made it into the chicken pot pie pot. But when I was a little boy, I didn't know that because my grandmother just said, we're having chicken pot pie tonight. Sometimes the meat looked white, like a chicken. Other times it was kind of gray. But I didn't know better, so I ate it.
Did it have a nutty flavor to it?
It had a nutty flavor, yeah, that's what it had. So sometimes I find out later that he was fond of hunting squirrels. And other times, when times were really rough, he'd go out and get a rabbit. So I know we had squirrel pot pie and rabbit pot pie. But the one that takes the prize is the one where he'd go and do some of his farmer friends a favor. And he'd go out and shoot the old Grundsau. Now, what is a Grundsau?
Dave, what's a Bill? Dave, don't know better. What's a Grundsau?
A Grundsau is a groundhog.
Ah, old groundhog. Yes, so indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you are really not Pennsylvania Dutch unless you've ever had Grundsau pot pie. Mmm, yum.
Yum, yeah.
Chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie. Everybody loves that chicken pot pie. Chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie. Everybody loves that chicken pot pie. Big finish.
A Hinkelbutt boy, alle ever lieber Hinkelbutt boy. Hinkelbutt boy, alle ever lieber Hinkelbutt boy.
Thank you. Now,
could you ever imagine growing up, Bill, that someone someday would sing a song about chicken pot pie?
Never know.
You never know, that's right.
Never know. You know, Doug,
Yeah?
I just told the audience out here I'm an auctioneer. And do you know, last Saturday we sold sweet corn. How many people like sweet corn?
I like sweet corn.
Oh, and it's just coming in now. But we sold sweet corn at $10.50 a dozen. Can you believe that? Now I'm going to ask everybody out there in the audience, and I'll ask you two here. Do you know what a pirate pays for sweet corn?
No, what?
A buccaneer. You know, I'll take a grown. That's as good as a lot.
Yeah, we like groans, that's right. groan a lot. If these jokes make you groan, you gotta do it. This is participation. A buccaneer, boy. You can get really Pennsylvania Dutch when somebody says something like that. You can groan and then you say, aye.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. What can I tell you?
I don't know, buddy.
So here's another strange thing that the Pennsylvania Germans brought with them. This tradition of celebrating the groundhog. Well, they didn't have groundhogs there. They had like badgers and badgers. And but if you go over there somewhere, one of those buildings they have, I think it's the world's largest groundhog.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
And the groundhog is the Grundsau, the ground pig, really is what that means, right? Ground pig.
Yep. And what a lot of people don't realize, especially if you're not Pennsylvania Dutch, is this tradition that we do on the 2nd of February with Punxsutawney Phil and all this stuff.
You know, he's an omen.
I know, but that's the one that everybody knows. He's the famous one. There's many other groundhogs if you didn't know.
Yeah, but he's a fibber.
He is a fibber.
I
know. But this tradition is super old. It dates back to using animals to predict the weather. It dates back to pre-Christian Europe. And our ancestors that came over in the 1700s and the late 1600s brought this tradition with them. But as Dave said, originally in the Rhine Valley of Germany and parts of eastern France where we originate in Switzerland, there were no groundhogs. That's a North American animal. They traditionally used the badger that would come out of his hole, around the 2nd of February and predict the weather. This is old traditions. But when we got off the boats here in Philadelphia in the 1700s, there were no badgers, but there were a lot of groundhogs. So we adopted the groundhog as our official weather prognosticator. Isn't that the fancy $5 word?
Yeah.
And the tradition has stuck for 300 years here. In fact, back in Germany, they don't do this tradition anymore. We have maintained it, there's a lot of this, give me 1 second. There's a lot of things that the Pennsylvania Dutch do here in Pennsylvania that used to happen in Europe 300 years ago. But because of wars and history and time, they stopped doing some of the traditions, but we still do them. That's true, and that's pretty darn neat. There's Germans that come over here to learn about their own culture through us because of what we've maintained, our language, stuff like the Groundhog Day, some of the other foods that we eat. So groundhog, we joke about it sometimes, but it's a really cool tradition that we Pennsylvania Dutch do. So there's a little history lesson for it.
In fact, you might be so bold as to say that this particular festival, the Kutztown Folk Festival, is actually the world's leading preserver of those old world traditions that came from the Rhine and the Blatniken Falls. Now, but I have a hard time understanding, like they came all the way over there in those little wooden ships, late 1600s, early 1700s, as you said, and the thing that they were preoccupied was finding the badgers. Hey, I don't see any badgers. I look over there, that looks kind of like a badger, only it's fat.
Yeah. Didn't have no stripes either, like a badger does. Yeah, I don't know if that was their number one priority, but it was on the list, we'll say that.
Gotta find a badger. So also tell us though how this tradition of the groundhog or the Grundsau is so venerated and preserved here. It's just not in February.
That's right.
It's like, go ahead, tell them about the lodge.
Well, Bill, talk about groundhog lodges.
Well, a little bit about groundhog lodges. We have around 16 of them here in this area. Now, we don't associate ourselves with Punxsutawney Phil at all. Like I said, he's a fibber, he's a liar, he tells stories. And Pennsylvania Dutch people, they don't lie. They tell stories, but they don't lie. But Punxsutawney Phil, it is. But I didn't get to meet, how many people have ever been out to Punxsutawney? Okay, there you go. You know what it's all about. They have a big festival there on Groundhog Day, does the weather prediction and all. But we met a gentleman one time down at the seminar stage, and he filled me in about Punxsutawney Phil. Do you know that Phil is married to a female groundhog, and you know what her name is? Phyllis.
Phyllis.
This is a true story.
They just had babies.
Yeah. And they bring Phil out, not Phyllis, but they bring Phil out, on Groundhog Day, and they have this big bash. And getting back to the groundhog lodges here, I'm the hawk one. I'm sort of what you call a president of the Grundsau Lodge Noah Ames, which is number one. And in its day, we had 700 to 800 people get together for a groundhog lodge. It was an all-male kind of thing, and you had to wait. I was a young man. I had to wait on a waiting list to get a ticket. But they had musicians there, just like we do here, and they always had good side of speck and ponderoz and wascht. We had all the Pennsylvania Dutch, shoe fly pie, that kind of thing. But as the numbers dwindled, because the dialect was slowly going away, we had to go to another location. We went to the Gurnsville Fire Company, and now we are at the Lehigh Lodge of Masonic Lodge outside of McCungie. We had about 125 people there within the last year, but we're very fortunate in this particular area. The dialect is still spoken very much. So it is still being preserved somewhat, but the groundhog lodges are very active, and they're still going.
And if you go back in the building right behind us, behind that building, the building behind us, and then behind that, there's a setup for the groundhog lodges, and you can meet some of the guys, and they have stuff to learn about the language. You can talk to those guys, and you can see the big 9-foot tall groundhog that's there. Or however, he's tall, I don't know.
He's a tall groundhog.
Yeah. Get your picture taken with it, and then put that on that Instagram thing that everybody talks about. So,
But guys, what does the Groundhog Lodge do? I mean,
you get together and you eat a meal, tell some jokes.
A lot of jokes.
Yeah, a lot of jokes. Yeah, it's a yearly get together for everybody to celebrate their heritage.
And I will tell you this past year, it's still on a little shaky ground, but we accepted women into our groundhog lodge.
No one can say the Pennsylvania Dutch aren't progressive.
Yeah, I mean, without women, you wouldn't have, that's the way it is, But
sounds to me like you got too late old and too late small.
Yeah, we did.
How are you going to preserve the lodge if you don't allow women in there?
There you go.
Come on, you guys.
They're coming on.
But we have a lot of fun. It's a good tradition. We have a lot of fun, and it will continue. We're not going to let it die.
So now, in the Appalachian Mountains, which we're part of, the Appalachian Trail passes right through this part of Pennsylvania. Just a little bit to our north, in the northern part of our county, is something that's called the Alamengel, or the Eck. The Eck is a Pennsylvania Dutch word for the corner. It's the corner of the county. And the mountains, the rugged mountains, you get up maybe 1,500 feet above sea level up there. They pass right through there, and up and down the Appalachian Mountains, the groundhog has a different significance, because the groundhog in many places was considered a pest, because he would put holes in the farmer's fields, and if the horse or the mule stuck his foot in that hole, it could break its leg, and then you had a very, very expensive animal, especially back in the day, ruined because of these pesky groundhogs. If they did dispatch a groundhog, as I said earlier, my grandfather used to go out and help farmers with that. They would not waste it, not in the old days anyway. Everything would get used. I told you, groundhog is used for food. If you don't believe me, you can look in the Pennsylvania Game Commission's cookbook. And in there you will find a recipe, and you will find how to get rid of the glands of the groundhog, and how to cook that in parboil, what they call that groundhog. But they also used it for clothing, for strings, for hide. Back in those days, nothing was wasted because there wasn't a lot of wealth. So you made do with what you had from the earth.
Just to add to that, how many people eat pork on New Year's Day? Oh, you know why? You want to tell them about that?
Because it's good?
Because it's delicious, that's right. The tradition among the Pennsylvania Dutch to eat pork and sauerkraut at New Year's has a reason. If those of you that grew up on a farm, you know this. When pigs eat, what do? They rush forward with their nose as they eat, constantly moving forward. Poultry, chickens, and turkeys, they scratch back when they eat. So the Pennsylvania Dutch, which pigs are prized among the Pennsylvania Dutch. A lot of our food comes from pork. But this idea of we're going into the new year, we want to go into the new year. We're not going to go in backwards. So the tradition, one of the traditions for eating pork is because of that. And sauerkraut, because imagine it's January 1st, and you don't have electricity yet. You're on your farm here in northern Berks County, and it's 1865. What do you have in your cold cellar? Sauerkraut. And that was something you had on hand, so that was usually eaten. Plus, cabbage is seen as another very important crop among the Pennsylvania Dutch. It's healthy, super healthy in the form of sauerkraut, and it was something you had on hand. Made a beautiful marriage together with the roast pork. So there you go.
And the other thing, a pig will push your money together on a pile,
That's
where
right.
a chicken will scratch it apart.
Yep.
And nobody wants to lose money, especially not a Dutchman.
Yeah, did you know that the Pennsylvania Dutch invented copper wire?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, 2 Dutchmen reached for the same penny.
Oh, that's pretty tight. That's pretty thrifty.
I had to go, Bill. That made me laugh too when I heard it.
Oh, so anyway, getting back to the groundhog. Now, here's an Appalachian Mountain song about groundhogs, and all the things that we said about them come true in this song and more, I think. This one's called Old Groundhog. And first, I'll sing it in English. Then Doug Madenford, my buddy here, will sing it off the Pennsylvania Dutch dialect. Shoulder up the gun and pick up the dog. Shoulder up the gun and pick up the dog. We're off to the woods for the hunt groundhog. Old groundhog.
Shoulder thy flint und never thy hood. Shoulder thy flint und never thy hood. Again I hit the bush and run south to y'all. I'll run south.
Jump in there anywhere you feel out of place. Come on, boys, it's pulling on out. Come on, boys, it's pulling on out. Good God Almighty, groundhog stout. Old groundhog.
Come on, Boober, up him all round. Come on, Boober, up him all round. Meck got the starting of dick. I'll run south.
Come on, boys, it's work and tear. Come on, boys, it's work and tear. 'Cause the me'll do the eat and the hide do the wear. Old groundhog.
Come on, Boo, a shot for the riser. Come on, Boo, a shot for the riser. SNF Fleisch and Berlin, the Hound. I'll run south.
Skin him out and tan his hide. Skin him out and tan his hide. Best darn shoestrings I ever tried. Old groundhog.
Sigi ma und Gopi ma. Sigi ma und Gopi na. Ben schön, ben und den ich gesse hab. I'll run south.
I like my groundhog steamed and fried. I like my groundhog steamed and fried with a little piece of bacon by the side. Old groundhog.
Gleich mein Grundsack Dampf und Gebräuer. Gleich mein Grundsack Dampf und Gebräuer. Kleiner Stück Speck ruft den Teil. I'll run south.
Here comes Sally with a snicker and a grin. Yeah, she comes Sally with a snicker and a grin. Groundhog grease running down her chin. Groundhog.
Da kommt die Sally mit den Grins und den Schmunzel. Da kommt die Sally mit den Grins und den Schmunzel. Und Grund das Wutz auf ihr Kinn. I'll run south.
Old groundhog.
I'll run south.
Together.
I'll run south.
Thank you. Now it seems to me that he's working on it. He's got a lot more syllables going on than I do.
I was just gonna say that, when Dave sends me these songs and they're great, and I think to myself, how am I gonna put this into Pennsylvania Dutch? Because he has the melody written, and there's the melody, and he has the syllables all worked out in English. Well, if you didn't know this, Pennsylvania Dutch sometimes has bigger words than we have in English, and the syllables, they don't have the same amount of syllables. So when I had to translate this song, I really had to put my thinking cap on, but I think we made it work.
It's like if we were jogging, I would have jogged like 2 feet and you would have jogged 2 miles.
Something like that.
Linguistically.
Yeah, there's some good words there, I'll tell you what.
Now I have a question for you, Doug.
Yeah.
Why is it they always say that Pennsylvania Dutch people are a little slow?
Who says that? Who says that?
Well, my mom always said I was a little slow. But you know what? I'm going to tell you a story. My sister's a little slower than me. She goes to bed with a foot ruler at night to see how long she sleeps. And you know what? She thinks Taco Bell is a Mexican phone company. There's something wrong with it.
So, are we telling stories about family?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, my grandmother, she's a good old Dutch woman. When she turned 75, She had a little bit of a health scare, and she said to the family, we were all sitting together at her birthday, she goes, I am making a commitment today, on my 75th birthday. I'm going to walk 5 miles every day.
5 miles?
5 miles every day. The doctor said it'll make me 20 years younger. You know, my grandmother is 95 years old now this year.
Wow.
We have no idea where she is.
Because she walked 5 miles a day, but kept going every day. You get that? Because you are consistent.
She's like a slow.
You have a story, Paddy.
Ja, go ahead, Boo.
Das kann sein Frau, sie wohnen klar für 50 Jahre.
This man and his wife, they were married for 50 years.
Und alle Dienstag ist reingekommen zum Badstub und hat sich geschlossen.
Every Tuesday, the old man went into the bathroom and closed the door.
Und seine Frau ist an die Tür gegangen und klappert, Clarence, bist du alright?
And his old lady, his wife would come and knock on the door and say, Clarence, are you okay?
Ja, had ik zo, nou laat me gaan.
Yes, of course, now let me go.
Well, the next week I was willen aangegaan zum Badstub.
The next week he went into the bathroom again.
Und hat sich geschlossen.
And he locked himself away.
Und sie ist an die Tür gekommen und geklappert.
And she went to the door and knocked again.
Clarence, bist du alright?
Clarence, are you alright?
Ja, had ik zo, nou laat me gaan.
Yes, now let me go.
Well, 1 dag was sie aan boord.
Well, one day she was waiting.
Als hij geweest zum Badstub.
As he was on his way into the bathroom.
Und sie hat die Tür aufgemacht.
And she opened the door.
Und da war Clarence am Hocken auf dem Stuhl.
And there he was sitting on a chair.
Und hat einen Fischkart gehabt.
And he had a fishing pole.
Und waren Fische im Sommer.
And he was fishing in the bathtub.
Sie hat gesagt, Harry, Jesus, Mann, was bist du am tun?
My goodness, man, what are you doing?
Ich habe gesagt, kannst du das nicht sehen? Ich bin am Fischen.
Well, can't you see I'm fishing?
Hat sie gesagt, ich muss den Doktor aufgerufen.
Well, she thought I'd better call the doctor.
So, sie ist ans Phone gegangen, gewesen, den Doktor aufgerufen.
So she gets on the phone and calls the doctor.
Hat der Story erzählt.
Explains the whole story.
Und der Doktor hat gesagt, ja, etwas ist nicht ganz da.
And the doctor said, yeah, there's something not right there.
Dann hat gesagt, kannst du ihn reinbringen?
And then he says, can you bring him in?
Ja, hat sie gesagt, ich kann es auch tun.
Yeah, I can do that.
Ja, weil hat sein Buch gewesen, sein Kalender angeguckt.
So he got his calendar out and looked inside.
Dann hat gesagt, kannst du ihn reinbringen Freitagabends?
Could you bring him Friday morning?
Nee, hat sie gesagt, na, so schafft nicht.
No, that won't work.
Dann der Doktor hat gefragt, für was nicht?
And the doctor said, well, why not?
Hat sie gesagt, so ist der Tag, als wir all die Fisch putzen.
That's the day we clean all the fish.
Sie war auch nicht ganz da.
She wasn't all right either. Oh, yay.
Well, so some people got that before you delivered.
That's right. We got some Dutch speakers out there, I think.
So this is a part of almost every culture, but it's especially robust in the Pennsylvania German and the Pennsylvania Dutch culture, and that is the telling of stories. Sometimes it's boy humor, and the telling of some really tall tales too. You know, that kind of stuff. Like, you know, guys. Sometimes we make things up, especially fishing stories. That's another story though. Another thing we have going on here is most of us celebrate Christmas, you know, around December 25th or in that time frame. And so we're going to have a little Christmas in July now. You can pretend that we're the Pennsylvania Dutch Hallmark channel for the next 5 minutes.
Well, that means you and I have to fall in love, don't we?
Yeah.
It's a Hallmark. Could you imagine a Pennsylvania Dutch Hallmark movie?
Oh,
that's great. They'd be on a buggy ride somewhere and they'd be start kissing or something. Did you ever kiss on a buggy, Bill?
He wants to know if you ever kissed on a buggy. Don't sit there and smirk.
I'm not answering.
I did all my kissing out behind the barn.
Yeah.
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 Well, we're going to have Christmas in July now. And I wrote this song, and again, Doug translated it, so we wrote it together. It's called Hallicher Grischtdaag. You say it.
Hallicher Grischtdaag. You were close. You were
I was
close.
It means, what does it mean?
Merry Christmas to you, or Happy Christmas to you.
Now, so a lot of the modern Christmas traditions come out of old pagan Germany. So if you go to the oldest German farm in Germany that's preserved, I think it's in the Black Forest in the Schwarzwald, you'll actually see really interesting things there. There's all kinds of pagan symbols around the house and the barn, but there's also a nook where they keep a Bible. So they weren't quite sure of the new religion, Christianity, because they came up through these old beliefs, you know, and so, but they hedged their bet. They had both in the house.
That's right.
They did both.
Yeah.
But they brought things with them like greenery that showed that things didn't die, that they had, in a sense, everlasting life, even through the cold, harsh winter months. They brought these Christmas trees. Queen Victoria of England liked the Christmas tree so much that she put one in the palace, and next thing you know, a lot of the Victorians of the era had Christmas trees. Then Americans had Christmas trees. There was this thing that predated the modern Santa Claus, and his name was der Belsnickel.
Yeah.
Maybe one of you guys would like to tell us a little bit about der Belsnickel.
Well, I can Bill can probably give us actual real anecdotes about this, but the Belsnickel is the traditional Pennsylvania Dutch Christmas gift giver. If you're lucky, I don't know if he's going to make an appearance today, but every once in a while you'll see him running around the fairgrounds here at the fest. But it's funny how you explain the Belsnickel to people. Everybody has this idea of Santa Claus, ho ho ho, and he's a jolly elf and he's really nice. Well, the Belsnickel's not necessarily really nice. He would come door to door during the Christmas season, and he was mean. He had his face all painted up, and he wore furs, and usually carried a handful of switches, and he'd come to your house, he'd come to the farmhouse, and he'd talk to the kids. And since it was usually played by a local guy, he knew the family, but the kids didn't know who this guy was. You were scared of the Belsnickel. I mean, it taught you to behave all year long, right? So, and he would give a small gift, maybe walnuts or an orange, or as time progressed, maybe a little bit of candy or chocolate. But there's this tradition that the Pennsylvania still have. We believe in the Belsnickel. I mean, you believe in the Belsnickel, don't you?
Well, he always gave me coal, I can tell you that.
He gave me coal. I believe in the Belsnickel.
There's great stories preserved in our history of these local Belsnickels, these guys who would dress up in these little towns, and then they'd go farm to farm. My grandparents talked about it. He'd come in the living room, you'd be a little scared, and he'd yell at you, he'd know your name, and if you would know he's local, so he might say, Bill, do you remember back in July when you pushed your sister into the creek? I do! And Bill would be like, oh my God, the Belsnickel knows about that.
He knew everything.
He knows everything. So we have stories that as the Belsnickel would come to the house, as he was leaving, the family would usually give him maybe a small drink, probably of something a little harder, maybe Applejack or whiskey or brandy, to send him on his way. You always wanted the Belsnickel to visit early on in the evening, because by the time he got to about the 8th or 9th farmhouse, he would the Belsnickel was a little different, if you get my drift. So he was a little more cantankerous, and the hitting up the backside maybe got a little harder too.
I've interviewed a lot of the old Pennsylvania German people. Many of them aren't with us anymore. And through the years to kind of chronicle and document this culture. And this was very, very, very much alive here, the culture of the Belsnickel at the holiday season. And most people in their houses, their Belsnickel would come in and he would ask the children if they remember their Bible stories or recite a specific, verse from the Bible or something like that. And if they could do it, great. If not, they got a little switch. It wasn't serious kind of stuff. And then sometimes he would throw little coins or peanuts or candy or something like that on the ground, on the floor of the house. And when the children scrambled to get it, if they were too greedy, he would give them a little bit of a switch there. But I have to say that I am, this is almost unheard of in this day and age, that kind of what they call corporal punishment. So I'm a baby boomer, that's my age. I'm probably the last generation that had a father who was a Marine, and if I did something wrong, he wasn't afraid to apply his boot to my bottom or anything else that was handy. And so you can take that for what it was. I never affected me too much. I guess I grew up okay. And that was the whole idea behind the Belsnickel. Keep straight, keep it right, stay on the straight and narrow path.
To follow up with that, after Christmas with the Belsnickel, we used to always, I was a little kid growing up, maybe some of you even experienced that. We always had on New Year's Day the Nyos Winch.
Yep.
How about that?
New Year's wishing,
Yep, they wished the new year in and the old year out. There would be musicians just like Dave and Doug here, and they would come and they would play maybe for 10, 15 minutes, and they had a little bit of schnapps before they left.
Sure.
You know, but it was always a tradition, and we still try and do that at our house. And Dave, Mike and Linda Herzog still go around and still do that. So they go to numerous churches in the area at the holiday season. But if you ever want to take in a great time, traditional thing, it's a Nyos wish.
Yeah, New Year's wish. Yeah.
And if you'd like to take some of this stuff home that we're talking about here, you can't remember it all, honestly, you just gave me a perfect reason to give a plug. 2 years ago, I went around and recorded a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, the musicians and stuff, and I recorded Mike and Linda Herzog, their New Year's wish. And at the Dietrich's Meats and Country Store stand, back there in the market area, they sell that CD. I think they sell it for just $10, but it has, I could only cram 83 minutes of stuff in there, but it really has a lot of wonderful music and a lot of wonderful stories. And my grandfather, my Pennsylvania Dutch grandfather, on New Year's Eve, I always stayed with him. Again, his old double-barrel hammerlock shotgun. We'd go out there at the stroke of midnight. He would give me pots and pans, and he'd tell me to bang them as loud as I could. I didn't know why I was doing it, but I did it because I was a kid, and getting to bang pots and pans and make noise was fun. And then he'd say a little wish, and then he'd fire a shotgun. I didn't know till I grew up and started exploring this folk culture that the whole reason you do that isn't just to make noise. It's so you scare all those evil spirits and witches and warlocks and anything bad away from your house and your hearth and your home and your crops and your family for the new year. You just scare the heck out of them so they go away.
I would say if you want to learn more about the culture and stuff here at the Folk Festival, the seminar stage is right up the road here a little bit. It's a big tent, and there's where all of the education seminars are taking place, where you can learn about these traditions, you can learn about powwowing, you can learn about the art of the Pennsylvania Dutch. So definitely stop in when you're walking the fairgrounds, the seminar stage. It's right up the road, it's only a 5-minute walk, and where you can really learn a lot about hex sign tradition is up there too. So definitely check that out while you're here at the festival.
Okay, so we're going to finish up with Christmas in July here. It's the Kutztown Folk Festival, Pennsylvania German version of the Hallmark with one we wrote. It's called Hallicher Grischtdaag. And it's a wish. It's just basically a wish of benign love to all who hear it. So we send it to you. Hallicher Grischtdaag. Hallicher Grischtdaag. May your holidays be filled with blessings and lots of Yuletide cheer.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Make a fire, damit sähe und viel Yuletide Freudigkeit gefüllt sein.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Merry Christmas. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May the embers of your fireplace keep you warm at night. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May die glühende Esche von dein Feuer heilig warm halten. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May the crops you grew sustain you through all the days of dark.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May die crops, die du gebaut hast, dich dadurch den Dunkel nähren. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May the joy of children fill your waking hours. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May die Freude von Kindern deine Stunde füllen. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May the heirlooms of your loved ones bring you much joy. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Make die Familie Stecke von dein geliebter Freudbringer. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May the traditions of your forebears add meaning to your life. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
May the labor die ever they bring would die forever remaining. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May springtime bless you with fertile fields and more. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
May free your sight mit fruchtbare Felder. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
Last time. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. May God bless you abundantly and always hold you dear. Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir.
May Gott dich überflächen, take als Mann und lieb alle.
Hallicher Grischtdaag zu dir. Thank you, everybody. This is Madenford. This is Bill Meck. My name is Dave Kline. We'll be back a little bit later on. And in 15 minutes, we're going to have the Kutztown Folk Festival's Rising Stars. These are the youth of our festivals who have been practicing their music and stagecraft, and we're really excited to present them to you, courtesy of the Reading Musical Foundation. So don't go too far away. Thanks again.
Macht's gut!
Enjoy the rest of your day.